Welcome to Running Out of Space, and get ready for another episode about action figures. Look, it's a collector's niche that can't possibly be contained to one interview. There are so many different types, and types that collect them. Today's guest is all about Masters of the Universe. His name is Mike Woods, and man, he is hardcore about He-Man. I've been thinking recently how action figures have become the new t-shirt, and I touch on this with Mike in today's episode. So if that's true, and action figures are the new t-shirt, then Masters of the Universe is like a Van Halen 1984 tour tee. I'm talking real gold standard stuff here today with Mike Woods, and I have the power. Ugh, that was bad. Let's get to the interview. Okay, I guess we should start from the top. You're a Masters of the Universe figure collector. You have an entire basement filled with almost every iteration of the line. Am I correct?
Yeah. I guess you would say I kind of focus on international variants and stuff like that. You know, the main goal is to get all the figures from around the world, including the US. But I do other stuff as well. You know, I do modern stuff and merchandise, almost everything, honestly.
When did you start with Masters of the Universe?
Well, I collected it as a kid, and I would say I really started slowly getting back into it as an adult around 2013.
And what sparked it in 2013?
So I've always been just like a knick-knack collector, you know, like just anywhere, you know, I work or like I live, I just surround myself with stuff, and it's always been knickknacks of, you know, whatever source of art or, you know, just stuff like that. And then I got a couple figures, and I was like, oh man, it really like hit like a nostalgic level, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it was like I picked up a couple more. I moved here to St. Louis. I moved from Jacksonville, Florida to St. Louis, and St. Louis is just like thriving with toys. It's insane here. And you know, I found out about a toy show that it's like every 3 months they have this really nice toy show here called the Toy Man Show. And I started going to that, and just kind of just one thing led to another, and I just kept going. You know, it just, you know, once I kind of get into stuff, I kind of get into it and kind of go a little overboard sometimes. But
it's so funny that you're from Florida. I'm from Florida too. I was just telling another guest during an interview, I was just talking about how for some reason Florida really breeds collectors, and that's across the board. There's just something about the people from that state.
Florida's got good taste.
Well, I was getting to how nice the consignment and secondhand stores can be for gem finding, but there's just something about Floridians and collecting, and a lot of people they make their big acquisitions. It's always like they buy things from some collector in Florida. Somehow that state has been working its way into my conversations more and more, and I'm not surprised.
No, yeah, I mean, I don't know. You know, I have a connection. I'll tell you the connection. My theory off camera.
Okay. I think it's just you have, you know, especially with toys. I think it's like the Disney connection somehow, like theme parks. I also think, you know, I think there's I don't know. Maybe it's the lack of topography. Everything's so flat, so people don't want to go outside, so they collect more. It would probably do me good to do some research on that and take it a little bit further.
I think the Disney thing that's a pretty good theory there, you know, like just kind of with that like childhood make believe kind of magic, kind of like being really in your face in Florida.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Were you collecting anything before Masters of the Universe? Like before 2013? I mean, you said knickknacks. What are we talking here?
I mean, it's like everything, like sneakers, artwork, you know, like just random statues. And, you know, I like the Rat Fink stuff a lot. And I even collected some Disney stuff, and but you know, just like skateboard stuff like that, you know.
Comic books ever?
I was never into comics. Comics never did anything for me, and never anything against it. but just I never read them as a kid. You know, like it's just never my thing. I still don't really like. It really doesn't do anything for me.
No.
You know, yeah, I don't know. It just never hit. You know.
Uh-huh. You know, there's something about the Masters of the Universe line that is so iconic. And they did it all at first without any cartoon, without any comic book. When the figures first came out, they had those mini comic books in them. But Masters of the Universe was really just born from a toy line.
Yeah.
And I remember when like going to the toy store when I was a little boy and Masters of the Universe first came out, and it was just like Man at Arms, He-Man, Skeletor, Beastman, maybe Merman was in the shop. But dude, I remember exactly the moment when I walked into the toy store and I saw Masters of the Universe. I have never seen anything like it before. I mean, this was like what, 1980? Whenever the first line came out.
The it came out in 82. But I
Okay.
think they actually was released in 82.
Okay, so 82. I remember walking in the toy store, seeing those, game changer. I'll never forget it. And the weird thing was that there was no cartoon before that. They just kind of dropped out of nowhere. And then the cartoon kind of rolled out. And then it was just next level. But I have such a odd relationship with it because on one hand, I love it. The characters are fantastic. The character designs are phenomenal. The toy designs were just revolutionary and so much fun and just so like just such a spectacle to see. But on the other hand, there's no mythology to it. It's like pure corporate capitalism at its finest. You know, there's no kind of backstory to it. It's all geared towards selling toys. But there's just something about it there that just continues on, and that hasn't really spoiled it for a lot of people.
Totally. You do see a lot of capitalism involved with the line specific. You know, it's like there's a lot of like, all right, put it out there. You know, like um, but for some reason it just hit so hard with so many different people. Like they can overlook that. You know, like whether Mattel did it on purpose or whether it's just the stars aligned. You know.
Yeah, they're just so cool. I really think it boils down to they're just so darn cool looking. You know,
Yeah,
like
they're trying to like do different things with the toys, you know, because they have these other toys, but they're bringing these concepts from their other toys into the line and just trying to. They were really like pushing it with like, oh, let's have a like a figure go up and down or do this, like, and I think they're just trying out all this stuff to see what works because if it works for this toy line, it also works for all their other toy lines, and they could just stack paper off of all that.
yeah. I feel like the real heart and soul is that first wave. I don't think that they've ever done better than the OGs, Beastman, Merman, Sorceress, Evil Lyn, like just the first round. Maybe they had a second win with like Hordak and that stuff. After a while, it just seemed like, okay, well, this week we're just going to put a new weapon or we're just going to do a new paint color. Like, look, if you look at Moss Man, it's like Beast Man, but like it's green now. But again, it endures. And you know what? I'm going to correct myself right now because I talk about this a lot. Trapjaw is pretty badass.
I think as a kid, that's right. Because when you're playing with it, eventually, because you're getting older at the same time, and then you're kind of like, man, this is getting stale now. Because it was cool, but the same cool thing just keeps happening, so it becomes stale. And they tried. I think as an adult collector, it's completely different. I love that there's like so many figures and then so many different versions of these figures. And you might have this figure, it's like, this figure's not that cool or whatever. But then you might find like a crazy version that was released in whatever country that's badass. And all of a sudden now this figure's cool, and it's just like, I think it's just like, for me, it's all about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's cool meeting Masters of the Universe people because there's always a different reason, and there's always a different passion for a certain character. Now, I know that your handle on Instagram is Buzzoff85. Is that right?
82. Yeah.
82. Okay, Buzzoff82. So you're a big fan of Buzzoff, the bee guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I am.
how'd that connection happen?
Um, I don't know. It was kind of planned, not planned. Like, I mean, I liked them as a kid,
Uh-huh.
but when I first started collecting, I was getting into like there's all when you collect Masters of the Universe, there's all kinds of collecting. You have figures, you have comics, you have merchandise, and just international American. You just all different styles of collecting, and I was kind of exploring that and figuring all this stuff out. I really wanted to army build a figure, and because there wasn't a whole lot of people doing it at the time. I know my boy Nick was doing it with Trapjaw. I know a lot of people he meant a Skeletor, but there wasn't like a whole lot of like Andy was doing it with Clawful, but there was and Luke. There's also another Buzz Off collector that's like way beyond me and been doing it way longer. But it was kind of one of these things where I was like, I want to do this. I want to army build a figure. I think that's really cool. And I was like, well, what makes sense? And then first I was like, well, financially, Buzz Off makes sense because he was like one of the top produced figures. So that makes him the cheapest figure, pretty much, one of them. And they're just like in every lot you see a Buzz Off. And I was like, well, that's a good sign. And I already had some cool like international Buzz Off figures at the time also. And I was like, oh, they also come from like a race of bee people, and everything just kind of like linked up. And then it was just like more Buzz Off stuff, and then like a big passion came for the Buzz Off, more so in adult collecting than the childhood collecting.
And you've centered your collection on Buzz Off. You'll buy other characters, but your eye is just zeroed in on Buzz Off, huh?
Kind of, because I collect everything just as hard. It's just a section of my collection is dedicated to Buzz Off, and it's like anything I can find, that I don't have, I will. I have probably 120 or so like loose figures.
Wow.
And I used to pick them up every chance I get, but I got a bunch of other long-term goals that I'm working on with all kinds of figures and merchandise and everything. So you can only make so much money and put into this, so it's like sometimes I gotta it's like I'll work on this for a few months, I'll work on the Buzz Off for a few months, then I'll go like, oh, I'll work on some figures from Venezuela and get this collection kind of up more. Then I'll do some merchandise or some modern stuff. It's like doing all the different stuff. I get to kind of bounce around, and I don't lose interest. It's not repetitive. I can like have like sub focuses almost.
Is the stuff from Venezuela cool? What's so specific about that particular region and the figures that were released around there?
I mean, Masters of the Universe, aside from the United States, it was released in Venezuela, Argentina, Spain, Brazil, France, and Mexico, and India.
All at the same time?
No, different times. Some were later, some were earlier, some were along the same time. Up until like the early 90s, that was all kind of happening. Like India and Argentina, they had some later releases and stuff. And it just so there's different figures for like, and some countries did like close to the whole line, and some countries did smaller, like maybe like 20-30 figures or characters, I mean.
And is the packaging
but Venezuela, yeah, everything's different on all of it. Some might be obscure differences, but yes, it's all different.
And are the color paint jobs, like the figure must be the same stock, but are they painted differently aside from the packaging? Is the figure at all different?
I mean, yeah, it gets insane technical, from like different colors to like different injection mold markings, like weird stuff like that. But
so they were made in different factories?
Many different factories. You have Taiwan, Mexico, USA, Malaysia, all over. I mean, there's some stuff that was made in Australia, and there's stuff happening all over the world with this.
Yeah. Is the North American stuff, the best looking of the bunch?
No way.
What's the best looking of the bunch?
I mean, there's probably 37 different answers to that question.
Really?
I mean, it gets very deep and very technical.
I had no idea about this. So there are what, 10 different He-Man figures from the first wave, depending on what region you were in?
Tons. I mean,
Wow.
there's probably close to 5 or 10 that was produced in the United States. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
So,
and you could tell the differences between each one?
sure, yeah, yeah.
That's deep.
They're
Oh, cool.
they're
I had no idea about this. I thought it was the one thing, and then maybe they might have put it in a different package or something.
no, here, let me give you a brief. I'll make it make more sense a little bit.
Cool.
So this is like the different. I don't know how to turn this around.
No.
Okay, so like you'll see here, like
Uh-huh.
this is Argentina. So you got different versions. You know, there's 3 Beastmen, 3 Skeletors, 3 He-Mans.
Uh-huh.
You know, they're all different variants. You know, like
Uh-huh.
you know, like you'll have this is Camo Con.
Uh-huh.
He's a popular
Is that the
variant.
one that squirted water? I remember that guy. Did that squirt water out of it?
Yeah, this one's like a Argentina exclusive figure, you know.
Uh-huh.
So it's very sought after, very expensive figure, you know. This is
And
all different.
where do you require the Argentina stuff?
I mean, I get stuff from all over the world, you know. Like, I mean,
Is it eBay, or are you in like seller circles or buyer circles, collector circles, or is it mostly eBay?
I mean I guess you could say like the hardcore He-Man collectors. It's kind of small community. I mean, it's big, but everyone knows everyone, you know. So you know, once you get a couple years in, you just kind of network and you meet people, and you know, it's kind of like the stronger your network is, the better your collection is, you know, because
Yeah.
like I have a lot of friends in Venezuela, I have friends in Argentina, you know, and like, I mean, I'll get figures from different countries, you know, like I'll get an Argentina figure from Sweden, you know, or like
Yeah.
crazy stuff. And I
How
like
many
to travel.
how many pieces in total is your collection?
How many? I have no
Like
clue.
how much Masters of the Universe stuff? The figures. We'll go with figures first.
Hundreds. I have no clue.
Wow. And then you also have merch. And when you say merch, like glassware, bed sheets, notebooks, pencils, all that stuff.
Yeah, everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, my bathroom is set up. You know, I got all like the bathroom stuff, the toothbrushes and the cups and all that in there. And I mean,
What has been the most difficult to acquire? We'll go with the merch first.
so in Sweden, they have this. It's like a reflector on a string, and it has Skeletor's face on it. It's called Reflexor. And there's three known in the world, I believe, of these displays. And my buddy Ronnie, he lives in Stockholm, and he was like, "Yeah, you know, come get it, and I'll sell it to you." And so me and my wife, we packed up, we went to Sweden, and he sold it to me. So you know, that's kind of like one of the funnest little things I've done with that. You know, I'll kind of show you here.
Uh-huh.
It is so this box right there.
That comes from Sweden right there. Oh, wow.
Yep. And this is the reflector. So it's a store. It's like a display that carries these reflectors here.
That is a killer rendition of Skeletor. I love that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That looks like a weird, like traditional tattoo almost, huh?
Similar, something like that. Yeah.
That's cool. What is it about Masters of the Universe that gets people? And is it the sword and sandal type of fantasy world that gets people, but it's low impact because it's not like the complicated world building of Dungeons and Dragons, or even the investment that you have to make in comics? Like, what is it about Masters of the Universe that gets a certain crowd of people?
I mean, that's you know, that's a hard question, obviously, but I think
For you in particular, because you said you're not into comics, are you into Dungeons and Dragons?
no, you know, I never really got into that kind of stuff. I mean, I think it's cool. I really enjoy the artwork and stuff. I just like growing up, I was like a skateboard punk rock kid, you know what I'm saying? Like as soon as I was old enough, like 12, 13 years old, I got on a skateboard, and that was done. You know, that was it. Nothing else really mattered
Yeah.
until later in my life. But I think like the appeal to He-Man was just like the power, you know, he was like a good guy. He wasn't violent, you know, like you might get a bop or some shit like that, you know, but he wasn't like ripping dudes' heads off, or like he wasn't killing people, or no
Yeah.
one's getting hurt, you know. And I think that was like and there's like a real comic relief. Like the bad guy's like real scary, but then he talks ridiculously silly. You know, and I think that's like it just really hits with people. You know, it's just the
Yeah.
power of everything. Like I think like the colors, the energy, and it's just like all that stuff as a kid you think of. It's like, oh, I'd love to fly. I'd love to have these guns and these weapons. It's this fun stuff that like an 80s kid,
Yeah.
would like appeal to. The colors, it just stands out and it's just wild. It's wild, like it's cool.
And I could see the skate affiliation, especially with the villains in He-Man. There is kind of like a punk and metal quality to the approach of the villains. With
Yeah, like
you have a skeleton man with a hood, you have like a beast man that the only thing that they're missing is like an Eddie character, like an Iron Maiden type of dude. But you had like those rogues that look pretty sinister.
totally, but like at the same time they were like funny, they weren't like you don't see a skeleton man that's like scary. You see him as like, this dude's, you think, he's rad or something like those ones.
Did you get into He-Man through the cartoon? Were you a kid and you saw the cartoon, you're like, I need to have the toys?
Yeah, I was born in 82, so I was a little late to it, but it's still popping. I remember like still in stores and like my family didn't have a lot of money and it was like, oh, you go to the store and you can pick one, so I had to like go through all and like see which one I really wanted.
Yeah. But by the way, they were what, $2, $3 back then?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they were cheap.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But
so were you going to villains first when your parents were like, all right, you get one? Would you go He-Man and Heroes, or would you go straight to the villains?
When I was a kid, I didn't really have a method. I was just like, oh, that's cool. I want that one, like, and then I just kept getting them, and like I'd have some at my mom's house, I have some at my grandma's house and stuff, and I would watch the cartoon and it kind of like coincided together, it's just like
Yes.
I played with them and watched the cartoon was on like religiously. Like it was like always on TV, I feel like, so it's like, and I just watched it every time I saw it on. It's just like I just watched it every time,
This points to my love and hate with He-Man and Masters of the Universe, is that I too love the cartoon. The cartoon was great, but the problem is you're sitting there and your imagination is getting flexed by the cartoon, and then you see your heroes during the cartoon, like the commercial break, they're selling you the action figure that's premiering in the cartoon that week, and it just the connection between like consumerism and fantasy, like just the mixing of that. I feel as I've gotten older and I've kind of been able to look back at it, it seems there's something rotten about it,
I mean, they're definitely brainwashing you and shoving it down your throat and like making the kids want it and to tell their parents I need this or whatever, you know.
But still, the characters endure. For some reason, the characters endure. And I hate to say some reason, the real reason is they're great characters, regardless if there's no mythology. Like I would love to see some more origin stuff on Beastman or Merman. There's been stuff with Skeletor, but I feel like that's kind of been retconned, right? Like the whole the who was it, Keldor or whatever, whoever that backstory is. It was always kind of hinted, but I feel like they've developed that more concretely over time.
Totally, and I think a lot of that the 200X storyline is now like people kind of consider some of that like part of the He-Man line now, like the Keldor stuff and all that. So
what's 200X? What's that?
That's the line from the early 2000s.
Is that like the space one?
No, that was after the space one.
Oh.
Like the real I think it's maybe the Four Horsemen. I think that's when they started getting involved or something. It's like real like just more detailed figures,
Oh, you're talking about the toy designers, the Four Horsemen?
Yeah. So
they did some really good ones. Now that's right. Do you have any of those?
I have one. I like it's what the one they call Disco Skeletor, but that line I don't particularly like. I don't like all the like crazy detail, that hyper detail stuff. I like that simple kind of 80s look. I just think that's cool.
Yeah. Do you have a holy grail that you're pursuing right now? Is there a Masters of the Universe figure out there that you don't have that you're constantly looking for at a good price?
Yeah, tons. There's tons. I have a lot of figures, like a lot of figures, but there's like there's so many more. Like I mean, not including like variants and stuff like that. I still need like 90 to 100 figures to check
Wow.
off the list. And I have, like I said, I have a lot. So yeah, there's a lot of figures. There's a lot of really, really expensive figures. So it's
What's
not
the most expensive figure out there? Like, what is the cream of the crop when it comes to He-Man collectors?
that. I mean, there's so many different things that
Okay.
it would have to almost be like a category. Um,
Okay.
I mean, most people would say like in the figures, like the faker from India, the Leo faker. That's like that's coined the grail. It's not the rarest, it's not the most expensive, but that figure is just coined the grail. And to me, that'll be the grail.
Why? Why the India one?
It, it's just a unique figure, and it's just like it's hard to explain. It's insane hard to get, and there's just like this mystical power around it. It's like
Yeah.
once you find it, you found it. It's like it's pretty crazy. And
Faker to begin with is pretty far out. It's the blue He-Man
yeah,
figure. You take his vest off and there's robotic parts underneath it. It
yeah,
was
and this one, the India one, okay, so the India one doesn't have the sticker,
uh-huh.
but it has a staff, a sword, and a skirt, and the Skeletor armor. So it has
Uh-huh.
more pieces all in the orange color. And it's got like a black on the eyes and like some green and red on the eyes. It's just kind of like a real, just I don't know, kind of spooky, kind of cool looking figure.
And what was that, me or you?
I think that was, sorry, I don't know how to turn this off.
It's all good.
This is my wife's computer, so I'm
Cool.
not good with the
What does
computer.
she think about your Masters of the Universe collection?
Oh, she thinks I'm a nerd, man. Uh,
Really?
yeah, totally. She supports it. I mean, she's great. She supports me. I have a level of house dedicated to it. So she's awesome about it.
Yeah.
She doesn't think it's like cool or anything. Like she didn't grow up watching He-Man or nothing like that. So, but she's very supportive.
Does she have a favorite character now?
No, no, she don't care about it like that. I'm her favorite He-Man character. I would like to say.
There you go. Now, okay, so let's circle back to Buzz Off. Are bees like a thing for you?
Nah,
You
it's
just
not. It's not that deep. I went for like I want the cheapest figure so I can get the most of them.
yeah. How many
You
Buzz Offs are there? Has that continued? Because I know they revamped the line over and over again. Has Buzz Off been involved in all the reboots, or are we just talking
Yeah,
original wave?
I'm. When I speak about figures, I'm normally talking about the vintage figures. Whether they're international or from the U.S. market.
Mm-hmm.
But
And what years are those? What years are what's considered vintage now? 82 to what?
well, it was 82 to 86 is when the vintage toy line ran for the states.
Mm-hmm.
And different countries ran through early 90s and stuff like that. But for the U.S. market, it was to 86.
And do you collect anything beyond that?
Yeah, I collect literally everything.
So
Like
every Masters of the Universe phase, you have pieces from.
I don't collect like so it's a little overwhelming. When I say everything, I don't mean everything. I don't collect the 200X toy line. I don't collect classics.
Is that the Matty collector stuff, or is that the Super
Yeah,
7
yeah.
stuff?
Both of those companies did that,
Yeah.
the classics. But I think those are great figures. I think they're really cool. But there's a lot of them, and I just don't have the space. And it's just really, I don't know. I think they're cool, but they're just not for me. There's still so many vintage things I need that I just rather stick to the focus.
Yeah, and also like with the Matty collector stuff, do you think that was almost like kind of manipulative in the way that they would release them and you didn't know how many quantities there were and they would sell out in a hyper way and then there
I,
was no
I don't think they knew what they were doing.
tell me.
I'm not saying I don't think they know what they're doing. I just think they didn't know how to anticipate the proper way to do it. It's like they were trying something, and it worked for them, I guess, enough as they wanted it to, you know. Obviously they could have sold a lot more figures if they wanted to, I feel like, but they don't know that, and then maybe they wouldn't have, you know. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, there's something to the scarcity of it. I feel like it got people a little more excited about collecting them. But
sure.
and I know that you said you don't collect those, but you must keep an eye on the prices of those. Are those like
I
sky high in the aftermarket,
I
or
I,
has that bubble popped?
I think they're starting to go back up a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't keep up with that, and honestly, I don't remember a lot of things.
Hmm.
But from what I gather, it was going down a little bit. Like they, you know, like all this stuff was happening, and people were like looking at this other stuff. But from what I kind of heard, I've heard they're going back up. But I mean, realistically, right now everything's going up. Like
Yeah.
I don't know too many things going down right now. You know, of anything in the world.
Yeah.
So
You also have to be wary when something is sold as a collectible. Like you know that that's going to tank. That's never the way.
no, you know it's crazy though, because you never know what's gonna pop. Because you see these figures, like, you know, like especially like the modern stuff, like that Origins 2-pack, the one with the Keldor and the trap jaw looking guy.
Yes.
That thing came out in very limited quantities, and everyone wanted it. Everyone's freaking out. People were paying almost $300 for this. It's crazy, and it's almost like, all right, like Mattel was like, all right, we're listening. You want more of this, so we put them on the shelves. And now all of a sudden everyone's complaining, like, oh, these are shelf warmers. And I'm like, what are your people's problem? Like, these
Right.
are toys. Enjoy it. Like
Right.
they saw, hey, we didn't make enough of these. People wanted them. Now we made them. And now, like, some of these He-Man people are babies, dude. You
Yeah.
know,
They're in it
it,
for the wrong reasons. They're in it for the dollar sign, and they're in it for maybe the bragging rights on the internet. That's, you know what, dude, that's across the board. That's like every collector's market. There's people who want financial gains for it. There's people who want to flex on the internet, but there's also people that are passionate about it. And I mean, like, and just speaking with you, I could tell that you just really, really love these characters.
I mean, that's all it is. I love collecting. I love collecting He-Man, you know, specifically. I love being like, what I like is like, you know, I find out about this variant I never heard of, this obscure figure, and it's like, all right, now the hunt's on. I gotta find this, and I gotta literally dig through the world to find this figure. It's
Where do you
cool. It's
start? Do
cool.
you start eBay? Do you start on eBay, or do you?
No, never. I got a lot of friends, you know, and like I like, you know, I like to be as cool with everyone as I can, you know, like except, you know, there's a lot of kind of piece of shit collectors out there who like to get over on people and exploit and make money and this and that. But I got a lot of poor, really awesome, good friends, and if I'm looking for something, you know, I go to my little group message and we talk about it, and everyone puts the feelers out, and it's like we do it together. You know, it's like if one person's looking for something, we're all looking for it.
That's amazing. What is the one piece you're going to take if there's a fire in your house? God forbid.
Ah, probably that India Faker figure. That one, or there's another a battle armor He-Man from Venezuela that I like a lot too.
So is the North America stuff bunk?
No, it's great. It's the originals.
Yeah.
You,
So
you
there's
know,
just little minor tweaks. You're gonna have to send me pictures, and if that's
I mean,
okay,
I
because
mean,
I run an Instagram with this too, as you've seen, I'd love
yeah.
to get some shots of these figures because I had no idea that the international figures have little slight tweaks on them.
I mean, there's not. I mean, there's like, you know, small tweaks and like huge tweaks. You know, like some of these figures are like completely different figures. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, some of it gets down to the like tiniest of details that most people would care less about. You know, but there's, you know, there's some very like crazy looking figures. They're just insane. You know, like that some of these other countries did. I mean, even the United States stuff. The United States has some pretty rare, you know, weird little variant figures, you know.
So the India Faker, that's the gem of your collection.
One of them, you know,
Do you have any regrets?
like the ones I got rid of or something,
No,
or
like ones that you might have spent, and I don't want to know a dollar amount, but one you might have gone overboard and you might have spent too much on.
oh no, I don't think about that. To me, I try to take money out of the equation as much as possible.
Yeah.
I buy figures, you know, I got some really expensive figures. I got some crazy stuff. But I mean, that's not what I'm trying to think about when I'm doing figures. You know, it's like it's like that's the last thing I want to talk about. You know, like not to you specifically. You know, but I'm saying like when it comes to like thinking about that kind of stuff, I get the figures and then I don't think about it anymore because I don't sell figures. You know, like if I like buy a couple figures and I have like a double, you know, I'll sell it or I mostly try to trade it, but I'm not like a seller or nothing. I'm just a collector.
Sure. And there's so much value. I'm a collector myself. And there's so much value when you really want something. And you know, there's always the money that you have to spend to get it, but there's a real value to having that thing. And there's a joy that comes with it for a certain type of personality type.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm not trying to disparage whatsoever, but I know in my own exploits, there's been times when I've said, oh, like that was a lot. That was a little too much that I spent on that.
I mean, I try to be. I'm not the guy who likes to brag about overpaying or nothing. I still like to get everything as cheap as I can. You know,
Sure.
like so. I feel like most things I have, I've done pretty well on. You
Yeah.
know, I totally believe too. Like and good toy karma. You know, if you're good to people, you know, people will be good back, and it just kind of works like that.
Yeah. You know, there's a real overlap too, because I spent a good amount of time collecting vinyl toys from Asia,
Sure.
and those can cost a pretty penny. And there are certainly the types of people who had the collections where they're looking at the dollar amount, but then there are also the people that had the collections that are really passionate about these characters. Now, a lot of these characters had no license to them. They are completely independently made toys.
Like Safubi stuff and stuff like that.
Correct. Yes, like Secret Base, Real Head, Bounty Hunter. I collect Cause stuff too. I mean, Cause is a different beast altogether.
I got this. I got not a lot of this stuff. I got this one. You know this
Oh,
one.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so
Like,
then,
Mishka or something.
uh-huh. Is that the Mishka vinyl toy? That's cool. Yeah, I had, okay, so my first guess was Michael Bortnick, who was the co-founder of Mishka.
I'm not 100% certain. I just thought it was cool and I bought it. One of my friends collects that stuff really hard. So
Yeah.
I thought
Okay,
it
well,
was from him.
so you meet the same type of, you know, there's the passionate types, then there's the types that are looking at the dollar amount and resale. But on some of these messages, I was on a message with a Super 7 message board way back in the day. It's called Skullbrain. I think it's still around, but it was a very passionate crowd. And it was before like Facebook. It was right around like the MySpace era. So
Sure.
you had a lot of people congregating on message boards, and it was a very cool scene. I mean, you had some perpetrators on there, but there were also people that they knew that, you know, even though the prices of these were skyrocketing, people would trade them or sell them for retail within the community because they knew that there were these people that they were selling to aren't just going to flip it. They're really passionate and they want it for their collection. So hearing what you're talking about, it rings true. And that's just, I think that's just a trait across the kind of realm of collecting, where there are people that are really passionate and will hook up the people who are really truthful to the game, so to speak.
Totally. Yeah. You know, like I have a network of friends that we just, you know, we're like a group, you know, like we just do this all together. You know, we take care of each other.
Yeah.
You know, there's times where it's like, all right, I need to buy a figure. I need this much money. So I have to sell this figure for this much money. Sorry, nobody's getting the hookup today.
Right.
There's just those times. But you know, if it's like, hey, I got an extra one of these, whatever I pay for, you can have it for that. You know, like a lot of that going around. But there's also, you know, what I've been noticing a lot lately is these like kind of like grail chaser type collectors. And they just want everything like rare and expensive. And I get that. Like I mean, getting rare, expensive figures is amazing. But it's just like kind of like I don't care about that. You know, it's like I just want to collect. You know, I want all of it. You know, I want the rare stuff. I like the cheap stuff too. You know, like I don't care. Like I said, I try to keep the financials like as tucked away and hidden as possible, and just kind of focus.
On one hand, you want to be able to be enjoying your collection when you're looking at it. You don't want to think about it in terms of dollar signs, because at the end of the day, the only people who are going to appreciate the ones that are super rare and hard to get are the small batch of people that are in the know of that. Mostly you're going to have your house guests, your friends, your wife's friends, your family coming in, and they're not going to know that there's a faker from India in your glass case, but they may see the buzz off that came from, just the regular line, and they'll start talking to you about that one. So on one hand, you have to be careful about why you want these things. But on the other hand, as you know, like with collecting and collectors, their acquisitions become part of their identity. It becomes who they are. So for a certain crowd, it's like, well, I want to base my identity on having these ultra rare things because that in their mind, it makes them an ultimate type of collector, someone who is above the normal standard of regular collecting, if that even exists. I don't buy that, but I understand that.
No, and, a lot of people want to be the guy, the hardcore. I want to be a part of the elite, the hardcore collecting and all this. It's like for me, I don't care. I don't care who you are. I don't care how much money you got, how many figures. If you're cool, you're cool.
Yeah.
You could have like, you could be like, I got 3 Origins figures. If I click with you, I click with you. Like
which one's Origins?
Like the newer vintage inspired ones.
Oh yeah. So why
like
don't you mess with those? Why don't you? Are they just like?
I collect those. I like.
Oh, you
those.
do? Okay.
Yeah.
Those are wait, are those the remakes that are like the retro play type? Because I know that they did like it's like retro, but it's remodeled. It's like a redesign of it, but it's like retro style.
Very similar to the old figures, but they're like more articulated, and they seem like they're having a little fun with it, doing a couple like homages and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I don't particularly love those. They're too articulated. There's something lost in there.
I don't like articulation. I hate seeing articulation of figures. I think that's what with the classics, that Matty Collector stuff, I just hate seeing like articulation seams and stuff.
Yeah.
I think the 5.5 original He-Man line like was so smart because all the articulation was like in spots where it was hidden, like the arm would be here. And, it makes sense, in the waist and the legs. And there was no like ugly articulation, like plastic gaps sticking out. It was like seamless, it was like really thought out.
Yeah, there is something very classic about the He-Man pose. It's very definitive. It has the bent knees.
I mean, it's
a little bent.
It's like strong, like it's real powerful.
Yeah, and it's crazy how much there is out there. Let's talk a little about the merch now.
Okay.
Is there an era of merch that you have a cutoff of? Will you buy it still now?
Yeah, like for the modern stuff, I really like the store displays. Like anytime I get a chance to swipe a store display from a store, I love doing that.
Is that something where you go to the manager and say, "Hey, can I have that?" Or is it in the garbage? Or do you literally just?
No, I just grab it and walk out the store.
Have you ever had any problems doing that? That's awesome. Have you ever had any problems?
No, no. I mean, there's smaller ones and bigger ones and stuff. I didn't get all of them like that, but there's some I have, and it's pretty much like every time I asked for it, they said no.
Yeah.
So I get to a point where it's like I see people on the internet with it, and I'm like, worst case scenario, I could get to the door and they tell me I can't have this, and I put it down where I go. Like that's what I'm thinking. It's like. So I just grab it and buy whatever, walk up to the self-checkout, have this giant display, buy my toys and walk out. No one says anything.
That's great. Where do you buy your toys? Is it just Walmart and Target these days? Like the new ones. If you're going to buy a new toy, where are you buying it from?
Yeah, I try to go through the retail, but there's a lot of independent, like vintage toy stores here.
Where do you live again now? Where do you live again?
In St. Louis, Missouri.
That's right. You told me that. So St. Louis is a big toy town?
Huge. It's insane. There's like probably 10, 15 vintage toy stores here.
Wow.
And there's toy shows and flea markets with like a lot of toy booths. I probably shouldn't be telling people this because they're gonna come run up my spots.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so in terms of merch, are you collecting like the birthday decorations, like the He-Man cups and like the tablecloths?
Everything. I mean,
what's the oddest thing of He-Man that you have besides that Swedish store display?
The oddest? Oh man, I don't know.
Most random.
That's a hard one. There's so much weird stuff, I mean, right here I got a cake pan. You know, you got weird stuff like that.
That's a cake pan in the shape of He-Man, and he's in a battle pose.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Here's a weird one. This one is not an official He-Man, but it's a knockoff. But I always thought he was really weird looking. It's got the He-Man
Oh
face,
yeah.
but he's like this gothic
Is that
looking
a
fella.
custom? Is that a custom toy?
No, that's real. I do have a custom version of that.
Wait, that was real? What is that?
That's a toy line from the 80s. I forget the name. Like Dragon Rider, not Dragon Riders, but it's something. It comes on a little dragon vehicle thing.
And they
There's a
just
whole line
use
of
like
them.
they just miniaturized the He-Man sculpt and just put
Put them on a dragon motorcycle. There's all kinds of that stuff. But you know, I mean, I have some weird stuff. You know, it's just kind of there's just so much of it. You know, like I could show you visually a lot easier than I could tell you.
Yeah, let's see some if you don't mind.
Yeah, let me see if I can. Let me see if I can see how to flip this.
Are you on a laptop?
Yeah,
And the
you know
camera can flip? Oh, that's
I
cool.
don't know. Can you do that? I
I
don't
don't
know.
think so. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
It's all good. Wow,
I
you
don't know.
literally have a whole wing downstairs. How many square feet is that?
800.
That's insane.
Like,
And you have okay, so just because I'm gonna put this on the video on YouTube, but like just for people listening to this. So Mike has a whole basement full of He-Man ephemera toys. He has a whole line of Buzz Off, the bee guy, lining the ceiling. He has how many glass cases full of toys do you have? 6?
glass cases. I
Yeah.
have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in this room.
And they're just full of Masters of the Universe toys, and they're all assembled. They're all neatly organized. You have like lighting effects here. You have even like the jumbo sized figures. Wow. You have you have all the random stuff too. How long is this? You started in 2013?
Yes.
Wow. Do you see yourself stopping? Is there a piece where you're like, all right, I did it? You have, I mean, you have the India Faker, but are there more pieces that are still out there that you're just kind of clamoring for?
There's no ending. You know, it's never ending. There's no one person who can have the entire Masters of the Universe collection.
Yeah.
I'll show you this though while we're walking around.
Uh-huh.
But here we're going to this. I don't know how to do the camera. This will be my door here.
Uh-huh.
So let's see.
So when you were living in Jacksonville, did you have a toy room that extensive?
No, I didn't have a toy room in Jacksonville. So, but this is my entrance.
Oh, it's like a secret entrance.
It is. So let's see here. It's like the bookshelf, and then it comes down. So you have the door.
You have the Castle Grayskull graphic on the door from the Filmation cartoon. Yes. Oh, you're deep. You have He-Man tattoos? You must.
I have one. And we got, I don't know if you can see it, but the little battle cat knocker.
That is, wow, you're in it.
But yeah, that goes down into, that's kind of how it starts here.
Wow.
You can see a little fluff down there.
Uh-huh. Do you collect the original paintings of the packaging?
Everything I can, yeah. You know, I mean,
those I love. The paintings that were on the boxes of stuff. Like, oh yeah, that's like you have a Filmation print right there. I love the paintings of and the drawings from the original packaging. I love that stuff.
Yeah, same. I have a lot of artwork. I mean, as you can see, like there's posters, like almost every inch of the room is posters and artwork.
Are you a fan of the movie?
No, not particularly. It's you know, it's like it was really bad, but now you know it's kind of iconic now with the line and stuff. But I didn't think it was, you know, a good movie.
They recently made figures of that, right? There's like a Skeletor and a He-Man. They didn't make the Gwendor or whatever the guy was.
Yeah, Gwendor.
Yeah. They made a whole lot. Did you get any of those figures?
No, not at the moment. I'm going to.
Yeah.
Because I do have like I am working on a. So I had to get some water.
Is that a He-Man cup you're drinking out of?
No, this is something about cats.
Oh, cool.
I do have a bunch of He-Man cups though.
And that's a sweet T-shirt you're wearing. You're wearing a Spanish version of Masters of the Universe T-shirt.
Yeah, this shirt was made by Toy Snobs.
Uh-huh.
A buddy of mine, he's down in South Florida. He makes really cool Masters of the Universe t-shirts.
Where in South Florida?
I think he's in Miami.
Oh, cool. I'm from Miami.
Cool. I know a lot of people in Miami.
Are they collectors of He-Man? You know a lot of people like that?
There's a couple.
Yeah.
My buddy Dave Cardona.
Uh-huh.
He's a tattooer. He's a big collector there.
Yeah.
And my buddy Alejandro, he's a chef out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, both very hardcore collectors, great guys.
Yeah. There were some good toy stores in Miami back in the day.
Yeah, I never got to do any toy hunting in Miami, really.
Yeah, it's a bit way different city now, and it's all more specialized now. But back in the day, there were a lot of different toy stores and comic book shops, and that kind of back to what we were talking about, like Florida in general and collecting.
Yeah, yeah. You know what I think it is? People in Florida are like excessive. They're extra.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like when someone in Florida gets into something, they want to go crazy with it always.
Yeah, that's good. I like where you're going with that one.
Well, you know what I'm saying? It's like too, like the color, everything in Florida is like very colorful.
Yeah.
You know, like, I noticed the difference moving to St. Louis, where it's like a little more gray. You're surrounded by bricks and more city, grimy. But like especially like when you get to South Florida, like it's just very vibrant colors everywhere. You know, and that's like the thing there is like everything's loud like that.
Yeah. And maybe it's also because there's a lot of space. Maybe like because in South Florida, like, I mean, everything is different now, but when we were coming up, just the real estate in a lot of South Florida, like you were living in the sticks, but you were living in a big house. So
oh yeah, yeah.
Fill it with something, right?
Totally.
Maybe. I like the Disney thing a little better than that one, than that.
That makes sense. Yeah, I like that.
So are you stoked for the reboot, the new reboot of Masters, the Kevin Smith reboot?
I'm gonna give it a chance to watch it and see what happens. You know, I don't really, I don't know. It's not, you know, like it's not for me. It's for the new people. You know, like let them have it. Like I like what I like. I already know the He-Man I like. You know, if it's cool, it's cool. If it's not, you know, maybe at least some cool toys will come out of it, and it'll keep the brand going no matter what.
Yeah,
you got to keep the brand going because when they do this new stuff, He-Man always resorts back to the vintage stuff because there's a financial market for that.
Yes.
So even if they're doing modern new style stuff, they'll throw in like vintage inspired cups or, you know, like they'll do something like to keep those people, you know, like people like myself happy.
Yeah, it's hard to divert. And maybe this because there's no mythology attached to the OG stuff. It's hard to conceptualize He-Man away from the 80s toys. And
sure.
they've tried with new figure lines and they've tried re-envisioning it. I see you have a banner behind you from one of the reboots that was the space one, right? Is that banner behind you? Yep. That was so out of left field. That completely didn't work. And I feel it's going to be hard. I feel like the challenge is now with the new He-Man stuff. And I'm a fan of Kevin Smith. He's very passionate for that stuff. If anybody's going to do it, it should be him. But there's something that's going to be a challenge to it in trying to connect a mythology to it now. It seems like it might be contrived.
Yeah, it's not going to be what it will never be what like say like a vintage collector will want it to be.
Right.
It's just not going to happen, you know. And I think that's probably all behind the scenes reasons for licensings and you know, you got the Filmation stuff and you got the Mattel stuff and you know, like it costs way less to reinvent a character as opposed to buying the old He-Man and using that. So
and also look, there's some kids that just want to play with He-Man and that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I said,
boys aren't just for 30 and 40-year-olds. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're keeping it the brand alive and doing something fun with it, like I think it'll do fine.
Yeah.
I think it'll do fine even if it doesn't, like it doesn't the line doesn't need any of this stuff. Because there's still people who just focus on the vintage stuff
Yeah.
and like I mean you could spend your entire life trying to collect everything vintage and you never will. There's a lot of rich collectors out there who don't have it all. You know what I'm saying? Like people get run out of He-Man if they're being too lame, like the community really kind of puts their foot down and like sometimes maybe a little too much, but they kind of keep the scumbags out.
Tell me, what are some of the what's some of like the perpetrating that goes on in the He-Man collector circles? Is it just flipping stuff? Is it that type of?
No. The bad stuff in He-Man is a lot making fake stuff, selling fake figures. Because when you get into these figures, some of these figures, $1, $2, $3, $4, $5,000. You get into expensive figures, and they're very obscure differences. It's like, well, this figure is now $1,000 because of like 3 or 4 little yellow stripes on the tail or something.
And they're so because of that simplistic, iconic sculpt, they're very easy to counterfeit these days.
Well, a lot of it's paint apps, like so people are kind of like doing that, removing paint or repainting stuff or swapping parts, because there's certain figures in different countries, like there might be a buzz off that has like legs from a He-Man. You know what I'm saying? So like people like essentially try to build that figure and sell it, or or people making reproduction, weapons and accessories. Same thing like Star Wars and Transformers. There's a lot of people kind of making fake stuff and that. So
that's no good.
no, that's when having the friends, the network, and if you're curious, you can send it to your friend and they can kind of look at it and give you the okay or not.
If somebody were to come up to you and say, Mike, I really love He-Man and I want to start a He-Man collection, where do I start?
I would just kind of be like, well, what do you like? Do you like figures? Do you like cartoons? I would just say start just to go buy something.
Yeah.
Like look through everything and see what you think is cool, because you never figure it out until years down the road.
Yeah.
Collecting, especially very intense collecting, it's something that you mature as you go.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone so many different routes of I collect vintage only to now some modern to now everything to now just this, or my collection's changed 20, 30 different times.
Tell me about that. How did it start, and did it start with Buzz Off, or what was it starting? What did it start with? In terms of Masters of the Universe, where'd you start? What was like your first few that you bought?
It was He-Man, Skeletor, and Manny Faces.
Manny Faces was good.
Yeah, it's a cool figure. Super interesting and smart.
And it had the 3 different heads in them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna redact what I said earlier. It's not just the first wave. There were some real gems down the line in each different wave that would come out. There really were.
I mean, I think every figure, there's a couple that I'm not super into. I think every figure is special in its own way. And if you really, the way I like to dive into figures, you start figuring out unique things about each. Because to me, like the storyline, the cartoon, and all that, like I really don't think about that. I look at it as like a collection. It's like a lot more on the collecting part of it, where I want to find these things. It's like I want this figure with every marking, with every color it came out with, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they do really have good shelf appeal. The figures really do. They all look good together, and I don't know if that's because they're basically the same body. The legs oftentimes are in the same pose, correct?
Yeah, the legs
kind of like athletic stance, right?
Yeah, there's definitely like a format,
Yeah, and they look good together. Like when you have I was looking at your collection, like the shelves, like there's some cohesion to it, and there's different colors, and it really they're very collectible in a sense, and it's no wonder they've endured so long.
And there's so many, like there's just so many different variants and so many different versions, and when you get into the hardcore collecting, it's just cool because like I still find out about new figures I never heard of, and it's like, oh, cool, I got to find this now. It's all about the hunt, and
Yeah.
and that.
Is it basic to want a Skeletor collection?
I love that. I love like character specific. One of my good friends, Wayne Ricks, is a Skeletor guy. That's his thing. So when I have questions about a Skeletor, I can hit him up and he can just let me know because he knows everything about Skeletor. And there's a couple. There's a guy named Mike McHale in Sweden, and there's Skeletor and He-Man. There's quite a few people who kind of use that as a sub focus.
Yeah.
Some people it's like a full focus. Some people it's a sub focus. Like I have little Skeletor tributes all throughout the house and stuff.
It's ultimate yin and yang. He-Man Skeletor is yin and yang at its finest.
Totally.
I have toyed with the notion, I've said this before on the podcast, with doing an all trap jaw collection, but I know that it's going to be a money pit. There's so many other things that I collect, and it's such a commitment. If I say to myself, okay, I'm finally going to do this, I'm gonna start acquiring a trap jaw collection. I know that I'm the type of person that's going to seek out the hard to find stuff, and I really am trying to avoid that commitment.
I'll tell you this because I've known multiple people who've done that with Trapjaw. The tricky thing about Trapjaw is it has a lot of accessories.
Yes.
So you got 3 weapons, you got the belt, you got the little loop on the head, which is an accessory, but it's one of those things where a lot of those break off. So it's another like variable to add into, a focus like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a hard one. I've had 2 buddies. Actually, one of my buddies got his Trapjaw collection from the original Trapjaw collector.
Uh-huh.
I think that collection is now passed on. So it's crazy. Like this I'm talking like hundreds of these things.
Yeah.
Like
I even feel like that's kind of basic, like a Trapjaw collection. That's not deep. Like you're deep. You're doing buzz off. Like you're not joking around. You're not a noob. You're really in it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Trapjaw is iconic.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's cool. I like the character specific kind of focus.
Yeah. And you're not, you don't do the Mondo stuff. Are you really just a purist like that? It's just Mattel OG?
No, I like I said, I dabble in, if I like it, I like it. The Mondo stuff, to me, the price point of those is a little much, like been the appeal for me.
Yeah.
Because once I start getting into those numbers, I start thinking of vintage figures I could be checking off.
Yeah. And I feel like go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say with like some of the modern stuff, these $15, $20 figures, you get the little Hot Wheels car, that's $5 stuff. It's like, it's like, hey, I have no problem buying a couple of these here and there. That's cool, but I don't want another sub focus that's gonna be, another $5,000-$6,000 to complete. Like, because I do, once I start getting into something, it's like, all right, now this is part of my focus. So I need all these, whatever it may be,
I feel like often the mistake with the He-Man revamps is that they try to make them too badass, too edgy, too dark. There was such a nice balance of childhood playfulness, but also something a little bit sinister, but joyfully sinister about the villains. I feel like with like the Mondo stuff, it's just a little too badass, a little too dark, a little too on the nose, so to speak.
Totally. And I think, like if they ever do redo a movie, I hope they don't go that direction at all.
Like super dark. I agree.
Definitely not. I want it to be more like playful and silly and colorful and like more like that. Like, or if they would have done dark, I think like in the 80s, I think if like Jim Henson or somebody like that would have done it, it would have been really cool. Mm-hmm. Like, because the old movie wasn't on Attorney. It was this weird plot that no one's ever connected to He-Man whatsoever. But I think if they, literally if they just took a cartoon and made that a movie, that's what everyone wants, like.
Yeah. Did you like the Hordak movie, The Horde? Remember
Which one was that?
Have you ever seen the cartoon movie where they introduced Hordak outside of She-Ra?
Yeah, I haven't watched a lot of that stuff in years. Yeah, I love that. I mean, there's not a He-Man episode I didn't. I loved it all. I just like watching it.
What about
Um,
She-Ra? Because Hordak came from She-Ra. Do you collect any She-Ra stuff?
no, I think I maybe have like one She-Ra pop or something, and
Yeah.
that's it. They just did. I didn't play with it as a kid. Doesn't really do anything for me. So
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I like if I see something like overly horde, like more horde than Shira, like I'll get something like that. But not for me.
What about the slime stuff? Do you have any like the slime stuff still in package?
Yeah, I got one right here.
That stuff was awesome. Battle damage was awesome for me, and the slime was so killer. Yep.
What's
Oh,
fun?
it's still in the package? You think that's all dried up, or you think it's still wet in there?
Uh, it feels a little dry. Maybe a gloppy dry.
That has such a specific scent. I can recall the scent just by looking at that package. That's so funny.
Oh yeah.
Is there a ultimate figure that maybe you've dreamed of that that Masters of the Universe didn't make but would fit perfectly in the world that you would love to see?
Nah, I don't think about it like that. I want what's out there. Like I want what already exists.
Yeah. And do
I
you,
don't get too conceptual with that. I don't think of like my focus is just like get everything that's out there. Like
yeah. Do you have a He-Man movie script that you've been working on for the past 20 years or something? Like, do you have the perfect film?
nah, nah, I don't.
Who's the
Nah,
perfect man to play He-Man or female if we're going to go that way? But who's a perfect actor these days to play He-Man?
I don't know, man. That's a tricky one.
It's
That
hard.
that fella that they were going to use, I don't think is the right pick. Nothing against that guy that they were going to use. I forget his name. A real pretty looking fella.
Oh,
Um,
do they have an actor in mind? Let me look
had
it
a
up.
guy. It was like a I don't know. He did like I don't know what he did, but I don't think he was the right guy. I don't know who would be. I mean, I would say one of these like crazy wrestler looking dudes or something. Like
Mhm.
just someone just big. Like I mean, I think Dolph Lundgren was a great choice for like
He
a
looked
step.
good, all right. He did look good.
Like that was a great He-Man. It's just they didn't do the right thing with him. But
Hmm.
um, I have no clue who would do it now. I would say it's probably like one of these wrestlers or UFC guys or something. Just a big old muscle dude.
Noah Centineo. Did I get that right?
Yeah,
Centineo?
yeah, I think that's his name.
Oh,
I
he's
don't
got
know.
a good look, but that's a young He-Man.
Yeah, he's yeah, he's a cute fella, real handsome looking fella. But if I want a He-Man, I want just like I want a dude who's ripped. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
He's got to be able to rock that mullet cut too, man. That's a big part of it too. You got to have the right hair. He-Man, the hair,
oh,
it's
yeah.
can't
Like
separate the two.
I see like a old Arnold Schwarzenegger or so like a look like that playing He-Man.
Yeah.
Like not someone who's like in shape. I want somebody to be like, hey, I ain't gonna mess with this guy.
Beefcake.
Like that's
We,
He-Man.
we need Beefcake He-Man, right?
I mean, yeah, it's a literal most powerful man in the world.
Yeah.
Like that dude's not gonna be like average looking
Yeah.
with a beautiful face. He needs to be muscles too.
Yeah. So would you say you're running out of space?
Yeah, I mean, if you would have saw my collection before I moved in here, it was just in a guest bedroom.
Yeah.
And my old house, it was just a bed and like literally like just wall covered ceiling, everything. Like all this was in a small bedroom.
Yeah.
So I got so much room. I mean, I'm out of space, but I can make it work, no problem.
That's the
I can
beauty.
always, yeah, I'm good at Tetrising things in here.
It's the words of a true collector.
I enjoy it. I like the quantity. Like I have a lot of friends who are into quality collecting. Like I only want, like 25 figures of the most badass figures that's ever existed. Like the rarest top figures. And I think that's awesome. That looks beautiful. But
Yeah.
I want to be like engulfed. Like I want to pretty much just be surrounded.
When you have a whole collection of things, whether it be He-Man or whether it be, dishes or Hummels or whatever, there is something that is so striking about having them in mass as opposed to, I have a few over here in a corner. when you have them presented in a glass case and you put them in the proper element, it takes on more of an elevated meaning to it. So I understand when you say quantity, because there's something so impressive about seeing the whole line. It puts it into a different context when you see them amongst the other editions
Sure.
together in a presentation.
And you know, like I said, I like to be quite overwhelming with it. You know, I like kind of going over the top. And you know, when you come in the room here, like, you know, I tried to make it really thought out. You know, it's crazy, but it's like everything's kind of thought out. Like you got the little secret door, and then everything like in the staircase is green. You know, and it's like got like the green brick walls, like Castle Grayskull. And then as soon as you walk in, it comes down on the ground. There's like the big vinyl of the trap door from Castle Grayskull, and there's green lighting, and there's Castle Grayskull things everywhere. And then that transitions into like the blue side of it, where it's all Skeletor stuff and stuff like that. And then I got the back stuff with like not like the museum kind of look with the white lighting and the glass cases and the red carpet. You know, that's kind of in the back. So
Yeah, you can really appreciate the artistry. I guess that's what I was getting at. And to your point, what you're saying right now, you really appreciate the artistry when you're in the midst of all of it put together in a certain context, as aside from just seeing one toy here or there. It's almost
yeah,
like, you know, that room is almost like an initiation into it. It kind of consumes your senses, and it kind of washes over you, and you kind of get to see the artistry that went behind this certain figure line. And we talk about consumerism and corporate interest and stuff, but there really is kind of an artistry to the action figure. I
oh,
think the action figure is very, it's like our new t-shirt. There's like an action figure for everything these days, and it's like how people kind of, you know, it's a way for people to express themselves. You know, the
sure.
person who's a 9 to 5er in the office, or even the massive collector that's committed a whole lifestyle to it. It's a mode of expression these days.
Sure, totally. You know, and you know, for me, like in my personal life, this isn't as out there. You know, like this is like a little secret world I live in, and then you know, I go to work and do my own thing, and me and my wife we do our things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's kind of somewhere I can disappear away from everything too. You know, like I mean, for a while I didn't even want to like have a face. I just wanted to be a collection. You know what I'm saying? Like I just did wanted to disconnect completely and just be a collection. But I've been having fun with it and talking with people, and you know, I've been working on some YouTube videos and
Uh-huh.
doing some stuff like that too. So,
So I was allowed into the Batcave.
oh yeah, yeah,
So your
sure.
friends, I mean, I imagine most of your close knit friends know that you're a Masters of the Universe collector, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like locally, like when I have friends come over, we hang out here, we smoke some doobies and stuff, and just kind
Mhm.
of hang out in the room and stuff. And you know, most of my friends don't care about it, you know, like that. They think it's awesome, you know, but you know, we're just hanging out and doing our thing, and they're stoked for me when I do stuff, but we're just chilling, you know. But then I do have a lot of people who like come through, travel. You know, I've had people from all over the world come to see the collection, and a lot of people passing by. And I'm always having guests, whether it's people from work or my family or my wife's friends or family, or you know. So we always have people passing through. A lot of collectors, and so that's cool.
That's amazing that you've made friendships and you've made some real personal connections through this collection.
Yeah, yeah. I've made some, you know, some of my current even best friends. You know, not like my childhood friends, but like some these guys I talk to every day, and we link up. You know, it's like I try to go to these places. You know, if I get close with someone, like my buddy Ronnie in Sweden. You know, we spoke for a few years, and it's just like, hey man, he invited me, I went. You know, and you know, I like to travel to these places. You know, and see these things, and like you know, to me, it's like a goal to like where these the figures come from, go to the country and buy the figure, you know, like
Yeah.
from that country. I think it's a cool thing to do, and I get to take my wife all around, and we know, you know, have someone to like host us and show us around locally and stuff, so it's cool.
You like to make it an experience acquiring these
Yeah,
pieces of yours.
totally. You know, like I like, you know, like having people over, you know, like when I was just down in Jacksonville, Florida, a couple weeks ago, you know, some of my friends from Argentina were in Miami, and they came up to Jacksonville. And we did some toy hunting together. It's
Oh,
cool.
that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for letting me peek in on this. I feel like we should check in every few months or so, and we could talk more about this because there's so much more I'd love to get to. There's
Anytime.
just
Yeah.
just simply not time. But I want to leave with this one question: how has collecting Masters of the Universe changed your life, and how has it affected your life?
It's given me a decompression of my brain. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I work a lot. I work a lot. It's somewhere where I can just leave reality and just relax and only have fun. The collecting has really done that for me and just let me just let me think about some fun stuff, decompress. I get to meet a lot of cool people, and it's been great.